Okay, Police Committee, Perry.
First, Julian, in your absence, on Wednesday, I think we authorized you to write a letter to the Bucks County Commissioners requesting funding for police car radios. And on the agenda here is a motion to approve that. Do we have a letter yet to approve?
I have received some information from a variety of sources, but I don't have an actual formal letter written. I believe, does this concern the application of table game money? Okay, I do have a sample letter that was given to me by the chief regarding that. So I could certainly put a letter together that includes, if council would so desire, I could certainly use that letter, that sample letter as a guide and produce a letter that, along those same lines as that, if that's what you'd like me to do.
So it's a yes?
That would be a yes. I haven't written it yet, but I can certainly do it.
So are we good to go on that, or it's on the agenda here, and I didn't think to ask you ahead of time. Should we make a motion, or?
You can't make a motion to approve a letter, it's not written.
Well,
You can approve me to write the letter, can't you?
Authorize you to write it and send it out without further review.
I think we should just move to the work session, give Joey a chance to write it.
I've also heard mixed information about whether that money is even available, but certainly I can.
It's speculative at best at the moment, but
Yeah, no, okay, well, I will produce a letter then for the work session, and then we can
So
put that,
we're
put on the work session agenda then. Okay.
At the work session, we also spoke about a new police car. And Dennis, do you want to?
Yeah, the police buy their vehicles. We usually replace cars approximately every 3 to 4 years. We must buy from a company called Warnock Fleet. They're the vendors for the state, so they have won the bids basically. So it's just a matter of what vehicles we choose. The chief came up with 4 vehicles. You guys should have a copy of this from last meeting. The lowest rated of the 4 vehicles is a 2010 Dodge Charger. They tend to have higher repair costs and lower resale value. Most police departments are moving towards larger vehicles where they can put things in them, carry barricades, the Sentinels, and other police equipment. Our normal vehicles are Ford Crown Victorias. You have the prices there. By the way, these prices that are indicated are not prices that anybody could get. These are way below retail value that even Ford dealers can buy these things. The suggestions by the chief are to continue going towards the larger vehicles such as the Ford Explorer, of which we have one right now, and the Ford Expedition. Both of those can carry more, and we're actually talking about putting a bike rack on one so we can perhaps have a guy out on in the car and just be able to hop on the bike if he needed to. The cost for the Ford Explorer 4x4, the base cost is $22,900. For the Ford Expedition is $27,800. When they're completely outfitted, the cost for the Ford Explorer is $31,000, and for the Ford Expedition is $36,000. The Expedition does have a much higher resale value, and those of us on the police committee actually all got in the Ford Explorer that we have now, and they're actually quite tight for bigger people, such as myself.
With a gun belt on.
Yeah, and without a gun belt even. I believe it's the police committee's recommendation that we go with the Ford Expedition as the vehicle. The money is there. It's been put away. We put aside a certain amount of money each year for these vehicles. We'll sell one vehicle, and the approximate, which is a Crown Victoria, and the approximate resale value for that will be $6,000. So we will recoup some of our money.
Right, and the mayor and Julia and I all met with Chief, and at the work session we asked a few questions, confirmed to the finance chairs that the money is there to purchase the vehicle. And I think one question that Gerard asked went to fuel cost. Is the Chief able to get any further information on that?
Yeah, I talked to the Chief. Because our vehicles, because we are in a 0.6 square mile area, our fuel consumption is pretty much the same. We're not doing distance in these vehicles. they're running, but a standing car running is not consuming the same as a car that's going up and down hills or doing highway miles.
Dennis, having owned an Expedition,
Yeah.
I can tell you it eats a lot of gas even when it's standing still.
Okay. Well, it's you guys can...
I think what the chief had said is that, yes, they eat a lot of gas and they're standing still, all of them. That you can't do a mileage rate
Yeah,
because
they
they're
all
standing
do.
still.
You can't do miles per gallon on these things. The new Expedition actually is, for some reason, classed as a multi-fuel vehicle that can take flex fuel. That's the term. So it gets some sort of a green brownie points for that.
Only thing you get corn supplement fuel.
Yeah.
It's fine. I mean, the genesis of my question was just that piece of information was missing off the Expedition one, but I'm fine with the chief's recommendation.
So I'll make the motion to approve the purchase of a 2010 Ford Expedition 4x4 police car in the amount of $36,179.12.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Does anyone in the audience wish to speak to this? If not, any more discussion on council? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Julia, while we're on the police committee, can I just clarify something? More of a communication thing. I got this information tonight at this meeting, and for whatever reason, this is the second meeting that I've attended where I've come to a meeting and found out that something has taken place at Linton Park. I know there's been much discussion on what goes on and what should be done there, but I think the primary thing that everybody in the community agrees is communication and people knowing. And if I'm one of 6 on a council that's not getting this until I get to a meeting, I'm sure the residents aren't finding out about this. So I understand there's some sensitivity around investigations, but if something is taking place at the park, having 2 children, I'd like to think that I'd be notified a few days after it takes place. So maybe we can discuss at the next meeting, or it was something we did talk about previous to me coming to council about improving the communication. But it's a concern of mine that this is the second time I'm getting things as I come to a meeting, and it kind of taking me back as far as what's taking place at a park that I live less than a couple hundred yards away from.
Yeah. Because this is rather recent and it is still very much there's an ongoing investigation here about this. It hasn't been released to anyone or mentioned.
I can understand why it wouldn't be released to the newspapers, but some kind of, maybe on the borough website, I think we agreed we would communicate that way, rather than a Facebook message of, concerned parents, because then it can get out of control. But if we have some form of communication that we're notified at some point, I think that would be effective.
We can bring this up at the police committee and discuss further. There is a fine line between
Right.
Informing council confidentially of something that may be ongoing and not releasing the information widespread until the actual facts of the issue have been considered. So, but we can certainly talk to the chief at our next police meeting about how he makes these determinations.
Okay.
I mentioned something about that, I'm sorry, I found some stuff at the park tonight.
Well, I understand. Is this something that you should be bringing to the chief's attention?
I don't think it's necessarily against the laws over-the-counter drugs. It is drugs and packagings at the park. So people are using over-the-counter drugs. I did call CVS about it. Obviously, the kids must be stealing drugs, over-the-counter drugs. And does involve safety. I don't know where it gets addressed.
I think discussing it with the chief might be a good idea.
I think that's all for the police committee.